This meeting is being recorded.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to join you this afternoon. I hope the session is really useful. I'm going to talk through all the things that have been covered. There'll be a point at the end for some questions, but if you think of anything as we go through, please just jump in and ask. I'll tell you a little bit about me first. Hold on. There we go. Starfish Accounting, I'm co-CEO of Starfish Accounting.
Sorry,
Um,
hold on one sec. Clive, can you mute, please? I think it might be, so I can hear a bit of background noise.
Well, one of them mute, the other one.
Yeah, you need to mute both of your things.
I can't seem to mute the second one, which says admin and report.
You'd
Oh,
think
God.
we ought to be able to mute everyone as host, I think.
Yes. Oh, there's no mute button on. Dear God. I think it's easier if I just log off. Because we don't ruin everything.
Oh, log off and log in again on another one or something. Okay. Sorry, I'll carry on, Emma.
That's all right. The joys of tech, right? So, just a quick overview. We're Starfish Accounting. I'm co-CEO. That's me there in my post-COVID red hair angry days. I'm past that now. With my business partner Georgie. We're based over in Central Maidenhead, and we're both proud to be. Sorry. Oh, there we go. In receipt of the MP Heroes Award this year, and I'm very proud of that. We're also a proud B Corp. So there are less than 30 accounting firms in the UK that are registered B Corp. If you know what that is, that's really cool. And like my teenager thinks it's really cool, which is unlike him, whereas some people don't know what they are. But it just means that we do business with purpose. We're all about doing good. It's not just about profits for us. So we're based in Central Maidenhead, and we work with a variety of businesses, including freelancers, consultants, creatives, and of course, growing businesses. But we also work with businesses who are winding down too. So everybody's doing something for their own reasons. So a quick poll before we get started. Who does their own bookkeeping? Who uses an accountant? And who, my particular favourite, still has receipts in a drawer, paper receipts in a drawer? Vashi, I can see your hands up there. Yeah, paper receipts in a drawer, or like me, bottom of the handbag. Do as I say, not as I do is probably the best way to do it. Yes, a bowl. I love that. What else have we got going on there? We see it all. We've had bags of stuff, we've had boxes of stuff, but we're moving into the digital world. So the biggest change now for the industry, for everybody, in the freelance side, those sole traders, is MTD it making tax for making tax digital for income tax. It's easy for me to say. It's been in around the news for the last probably 5 to 10 years. HMRC have been threatening to bring it in, then funding's been pulled and they've stopped, and then it's been in. It's like the hokey cokey. It's been out again, but this year we are now fully moving forward with it. So in terms of what they're expecting, they now want everybody to move towards digital records. So you won't submit one tax return anymore. Taxpayers will need to keep digital records, use some compatible software, and submit quarterly updates to HMRC. So it's not a new tax, it's not a new way of paying tax, but it is a new way of reporting to HMRC. So HMRC are wanting people to send through those amounts on a quarterly basis. And they're encouraging people, again, to move towards the digital world. So who is affected? It's coming in 3 waves. That should be the last one, apologies, should be April 28. The timing is wrong there. So we have now just got the first round, the first wave of people that are falling in. And that's a combination of income. So for self-employed, and or landlords with income of £50,000. That's not profits, that's income. So that's what you invoiced, you're getting money in invoices, commissions, royalties, rental as well. And if that comes to £50,000 or more, then HMRC want you to fall into MTD for this year. And it may be that you have your self-employed income of, say, £15,000 a year. That's what you're doing. But you also have a rental property and you're getting £40,000 a year in rental from that property. So the two together mean that you're in excess of the £50,000. The HMRC are looking at your tax returns and will notify you, although don't rely on the notification, because I'm sure if anybody's had dealings with HMRC, anything could happen. They could send you something saying you're in when you're not in, and vice versa. But they're basing it on the previous year's tax year. So from this year, they're looking at people who had income of over £50,000 on their 24 to 25 tax return. Next year, it will be those that have income of £30,000 or more, and they'll be looking at the tax returns that you should be doing around now, ready to file in January, so 25, 26. And then from April 28, that will be £20,000. They're looking at tax returns from 26, 27. Okay, so but if you're not affected yet, don't switch off from this webinar, because there's lots of things now we can talk about making sure you've got in place. So we're really keen to ensure that particularly our clients, everything's up and running. So when these changes do come in, you're ready for it. So rather than kind of panicking at last minute, we're looking at software. It's all part of the norm, and actually what you're doing already means that there's not a lot of change in your process. Whereas if you're trying to do it last minute, everybody panics and there's a lot going on. So it's 26, 27 or 28, depending on your level of income. So what is changing? So the current system is you keep your records, be it receipts in a bowl, a box, packet. You do your tax return once a year. So 25, 26, we've just finished that tax year, and that will be due to be filed by January 27. So that's what we normally do. From the MTD system, we move into digital records. You'll be submitting that to HMRC quarterly. So everybody does it calendar quarter. We haven't seen what happens when we file on a calendar quarter for the first one yet. I suspect there's a small suspicion that HMRC will fall over, but we'll worry about that when we get to that point. So every quarter, calendar quarter, you'll have to file. So the first one due for those that fall in already now will be to the end of January and will be due to be filed by the 7th of August. So you have 1 month plus the 7 days. So the end of September one will be due on the 7th of November. But again, we'd encourage you to get that done nice and early. What they've also done to confuse everybody is the first quarter, so April to June, will cover the April to June period, and you'll file that by the 7th of April. The one for September will cover the period the 1st of April to the 30th of September. So it's a 6-month report. So it's not like you file a quarter, then you file another quarter, then you file another quarter. You file 1 to 3, 1 to 6, 1 to 9, 1 to 12, and then you do a 5th one instead of a tax return to put anything else on there that you might have. So if you've got employment income as well, you would normally add that into your tax return. So all the things that then go in, so you do a final one. So you'll do 4 quarterly reports, an end of period statement, and then you'll submit a final return. So actually there's 6 there to do. And as HMRC say, it shouldn't cost anybody any more money, or there shouldn't be any more admin burden, but none of us actually believe that. So what counts as a digital record? So you can no longer rely on your paper records. Do keep them if you want to, but unhelpfully, HMRC are not supplying their own software to help. So previously with things that they've done, I'm sure many of you, if you do your own tax return, you log into HMRC, put in your details, and it files it as you need it to do. They're not bringing out anything that will support these Making Tax Digital quarterly filings. So there is going to be some sort of admin costs on the business owner, again, despite them saying there wouldn't be. There's lots and lots of options available. I've got Xero on the top of the list. We love Xero. We're a Xero Platinum partner, and we only work with Xero so we can master one well. But again, there's many other ones that will do the job. QuickBooks, Free Agent, Sage. If you're a landlord, Hammock is fantastic for landlords, but that will only do that side of things. If you have self-employed income and you're a landlord as well, you actually need to do double filings. So you need to report to HMRC your self-employed income, so on those quarters, and then do another one for your landlord income. And if you own a property that's joint with a partner or a family member, they'd have to do, so you get the income from that property and you split it in 2. So Lyndon, if Lyndon was in the position where he was self-employed and he had a property, he'd put his half of his rental income on his submission. So we do a self-employed one, his half of his rental income, and his partner or his family member would do the same. They do one with their half of their rental income too. So again, there's a lot of things to remember and to be processing with those. So if you don't fall into that time period yet, or those first waves, my recommendation would be to start exploring software now and start thinking about making that move into it. Because the process of such is just that it's nice that it becomes second nature to you, that you're used to doing that. We also recommend a software called Dext. It has an app. So if you're like me, you go about, and I just saw, as I say, the bag of receipts or the bowl of receipts, you have an app. So you take a picture of that cost a receipt or whatever it is that you've got, and then you've got an electronic copy that you can attach the transaction in that piece of software. You can then get rid of that piece of paper. It doesn't fade as well, because a lot of these ones now tend to fade after a few months. And HMRC will take that as a copy. So we have a client currently with an investigation from HMRC, and they're happy for us to download the copies or just share the copies that we have in Xero. They don't need the paper ones. And imagine how much space some people can free up in that house. But yeah, my biggest takeaway for now is to start thinking about keeping digital records, even if you're not mandated to do that just yet. So, benefits of getting ready early: better visibility on your profits. So you're keeping an eye on what you've got coming in. And if you have got shortfalls, as I mentioned earlier, what you need coming in at home, where do you need to be? Where do you have that? If you know what you've got coming in and your expense, your expenses are there too, you can start plotting your tax estimates better. So knowing what you're going to be paying. So you've got that better expense tracking. It helps you in terms of monitoring what you're spending and how you're spending out, and should reduce those surprises from HMRC. So we do have a saying that good bookkeeping isn't about HMRC, it is about running a better business, and that your business should work for you, not for HMRC. So there is big benefits in getting ready early for when that changes. So common concerns that we've heard, questions we've heard about it: will I pay more tax? Not at this point. No, you're still covered by the same tax rates as previously. You'll still pay it at the same time. So your tax will still be due at the end of January following you putting your tax returns in. And those that fall into payments on account, I'm sure some of you have fallen into that trap, particularly the first time that happens. You still then pay your payments on account in January and July towards next year's bills. You can use spreadsheets, but you'll still need to find some sort of bridging software. So something that will then talk to HMRC in the portal that's in there. Do I need an accountant? I, of course, would say yes, but no, you don't necessarily need an accountant. A good accountant should be somebody that you've got a comfortable relationship with. So somebody you'd happily go and have a coffee with and chat and feel open about. But also they should be in the position that they are saving you money effectively. So time, be that time so you can go and do what you do well. Or even that putting good advice in place that means they are reducing the tax that you pay, or even if you've got money, they're making sure that you're investing that in the right bank account, getting the right return on that, foreign currencies, all those kind of conversations. But no, you absolutely don't need an accountant. And again, if you're not affected yet, think about it. It's on the roadmap, and they will continue to do that. And they will continue to, eventually, everybody will fall into this. So that's my quick overview of MTD. We can move on to questions about that now, but if anybody's got any specific things on there they wanted to pick up now, do jump in.
Yeah, I mean, how much does the software cost?
So most of them, now work on a subscription model. We were just talking about that earlier. The Xero have a product in place called Xero Simple. That starts at £7 a month. Hammock for landlords is around £3 to £4 a month, and then anything between. But it might be worth checking with your bank as well. So I know NatWest, if you've got a business account, they work, and I think you can get a free agent account. One of the other banks, Metal, are offering another one as well. So again, check with your bank and what they are offering. You'll see in one of my recommendations later about having a separate business bank account, but that is worth thinking about. So it could be anything from free of charge and covered with your existing bank fees to probably up to about £10 a month.
Yeah, that's not too bad. But it is an extra cost, I suppose.
But it's yet another cost, absolutely. Yeah. And again, if you're working with an accountant, what you'll find, Xero are currently offering lots of sort of new starter. Most of the softwares are. So if you sign up for 6 months, it's 80% off, 90% discounted. What you'll find with accountants that we're offering accounting partners, as I said, so we are with a platinum partner with Xero. So we get a discount, not as good as what they offer new clients, but we get a discount. So coming to them directly, you might get a cheaper subscription too. So again, if you're with an accountant, go and ask which software they recommend and do they offer a discount from their partnership side of it. Definitely worth. But as I say, many of the banks also will offer it free of charge.
Yeah.
Can I ask, if you've got self-employment income and a rental property, do you have to use 2 different kinds of software?
No,
have you got to use Hammock and another?
No, you could use like double Xero and do it on there and report it on there. Well, I would say if you are just a landlord, look at Hammock, but actually if you do have the different types, then I would absolutely recommend having that one piece of software. But again, you will have to report separately landlord income, self-employed income. So use something like Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, they will all master that for you.
Okay, so you're not necessarily paying a whole lot more because you've got to use two different types of
No, not at all.
software.
Shop around, and it's what you're comfortable with as well, and what you know and what you're used to. But yeah, it gets more complex when you've got the two or three different types of income. It also includes foreign income, so foreign property rental as well.
Mm, okay, thank you.
I'm interested in subsistence.
Ah,
How far from home am I going to be before I can claim a coffee or
well, I've got my what is tax deductible and what isn't, right? So
yeah,
it depends. I love this question because I often have it with my team. So I come in and out London quite a lot. We're based in Maidenhead. I often pick up a coffee. I do like my coffee. So the odd coffee is absolutely fine on the commute. It's where you would look at you normally would have lunch, right? So if you would be working in an office or if you were working at school, in the days when you used to take a packed lunch to school, you'd be providing yourself a lunch at home anyway. But if you are out and about for the day, as long as it's a reasonable cost, then it's absolutely fine. Obviously, if you're going to the Ivy regularly or somewhere very nice like that, then HMRC will take a dim view on it. But potentially your toasty from Costa, your meal deal from Sainsbury's or Tesco's, as long as it's not daily, then that's absolutely fine.
what could you class as corporate entertainment? Because you might want to take somebody to the Ivy.
Yeah, so as soon as you take somebody else with you, that it falls into entertaining. If you go out together, Lyndon, if you and I go out for lunch together, and I pay the whole bill, then I'm entertaining you. But if we split it 50-50, then that's covered as a travel expense, as a subsistence side of it. So I'm just paying for my lunch. So it's the moment you take somebody else with you who's not part of your business with the
Yeah,
intention of selling, creating a relationship with that person, it's entertaining. So you can reclaim it from your business, it just isn't tax deductible.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Absolutely. And then if you're meeting with a colleague, so Georgie, my business partner, and I frequently go out of the office, and we'll meet over lunch just to be away from the desk and all the distractions from the office. So that kind of thing is also fine to claim for, but again, not excessive. Three bottles of wine, a couple of steak dinners, probably not. Okay. So, in
well,
terms of other things that might be deductible, that are deductible that you might not already be covering or thinking about. So, obviously, your professional subscriptions, your guild membership, absolutely. Any costs associated with running your website, so your software, be it Zero, be it Hammock, be it whatever it is you're using. Training that you're doing relating to the skill that you have and that you're selling. So, if you are currently obviously a writer and you decide to become a doctor, then the fees that will be incurred in that training for being a doctor are not tax deductible. But if you went off on a course to help you learn a particular different style of writing or in terms of a different media that you're going to do, that would absolutely be fine. Business insurance is really, really important. That is tax deductible. You need to make sure that you do have that in place. Many, many businesses don't, and actually it is a legal requirement to have the correct business insurance in place. Your phone and your internet costs, travel to client meetings, and also what came out, what's very useful from this is last week, a couple of weeks ago, when we had all the update about the cost of living and the reduced cost for the children in the summer holidays, what also snuck out of Rachel's office was that they've increased the mileage rate. So for 20 years, it's been 45 pence a mile. That's now increased to 55 pence a mile from the start of this tax year. So if you are pottering around, you're going to client meetings and you're using your car, you have two options when you're a sole trader, when you're a freelancer, and how you do that. But the easiest way to manage that now is just to keep a mileage log and reclaim the 55 pence a mile. Hello.
Very much, Emma. This is great. So you're saying about training related to work, but not
Yes.
adding new skills.
Yes.
So we run a program for people who want to become non-executive directors. So that could be construed as adding new skills, but it's also, I suppose, related to the work they're already doing. So how would that fit in? Would some people be eligible to claim back and not others?
Yeah, so it depends on what that's going to do in terms of enhancing. That's a really good question, actually. In terms of enhancing what you already do, again, it also depends on the cost of that course. But I would say it's opening you up as somebody as an NED there as well. Then that will put you on a higher level, more respected in what you do. So would likely bring in other people to you. So I would say that that would be fine.
Thank you.
oh, Vashi,
Um, Thank you, Emma. How does it work in terms of expenses for a commissioned recipe spread, for example? You've had a commissioned recipe spread, but the editor is not paying your food expenses for those recipes, you're just getting like a flat fee.
Yeah,
Can I claim back what I use in terms?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So say they're going to pay you £100. So you'll pay on the tax on the £100 that they pay you, but actually to do whatever it is has cost you 50, then you can deduct the 50. So you'd end up paying tax on the difference. So absolutely, if they are expensing it, make sure you get the offset of that cost too. Otherwise, you're really out of pocket.
Mm.
Yeah.
And is that the same for like if you're traveling to the airport for a press trip, for example?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So any taxi fees, train fees, or anything like that, and then the flight, even if that's being reimbursed, make sure because you're being paid it, you want to offset that by having the cost of it because you don't want to include the flight as income and not have it. So effectively, what we would say is net nil gain, nil loss because you're offsetting the two.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. But yeah, in terms of that mileage, we were talking about that, the 55p a mile, go back to the beginning of the tax year as well. They stuck it out that actually it kicks in from the beginning of the tax year. Everybody says the 6th of April, HMRC and the software providers will allow you to use the 1st of the month because that 6th of April date is just a nightmare trying to get anything in there. So there is a little bit of leeway on that. And then home office cost. So in terms of, I'm working from home today. You can use one of two ways to do that. You can have the flat rate of a massive £6 per week. You can reclaim from your business towards that. Or what we tend to do with our clients is send out a spreadsheet as a surprise, and we'll ask you all the questions in terms of how much your mortgage is every month or your rent, what you pay, and all the costs, council tax, water, electric. Then we'll work out the percentage of the home that you use. So I'm sat at the kitchen table and how long you'll use that for. And then we'll work out what that use of home would be that you can claim under that, or whether it's more efficient to claim the £6 a week. But make sure as well you're keeping those records of use of home. There are some spreadsheet templates available on the internet, but yeah, do have a look on that or reach out and I can help with that. So things that aren't deductible, normal clothing. We do provide hoodies for our team. You can see them. I've got my starfish on me. It's across the back. We tend to wear those to events, so we would class that as uniform. My nice top underneath and my pair of jeans are dual use, so I would wear that on the school run as well as to work. So that's not tax deductible. Personal gym membership, as much as gym and exercise is great for mental health, that becomes a taxable benefit. Obviously, family meals if you're out and about. Commuting to your normal place of work. So I know we were talking sort of about meals with Lyndon. So I normally work in an office in Maidenhead, so my mileage to the office wouldn't be covered. But then if I'm going on from there to a networking event or something like that, that element would be. And again, same for private healthcare, that would be taxable. So if you're thinking of buying something for your business, it's anything that HMRC would deem as wholly and exclusively. So if it's not, if you wouldn't buy it, if you're only buying it for your business, then HMRC will be fine with it. Dual usage, as I say, things like clothing, haircuts. Obviously, you need to look nice for a webinar or whatever, lipstick, because it's dual usage, HMRC generally wouldn't allow that. Any questions around any of those?
Anybody got any questions?
Great. Okay, so I said I promised some bits in here that would make your life easier at the end of it. So my key takeaways I think I'd like people to think about today is one of the biggest things that we find clients particularly struggle with is having a separate business bank account and keeping those funds different from your household income and getting around that idea. So when you're then moving into things like digital software, you're not doing bookkeeping that's including all your personal expenses. Obviously, you're taxed on it as a freelancer, all is yours, but just having that separately so you are clear what's coming in and what those outgoings are, it makes you keep an eye on it and be alert as to what's happening. Capture your receipts immediately. Use an app like Dex. Zero have HubDoc built in, and then you can just bin those receipts. You haven't got to think about it. Making sure you're doing a weekly check-in with your money. Is it where you want it to be? Are you doing your bookkeeping and your records? Even if it's 15 minutes in the morning with a cup of coffee, I know exactly what I want to do. Many online accounts now, bank accounts, have savings pots. So try and get into the habit of having a savings pot where you're putting some of your tax to aside if you're keeping your records, putting something aside so that if you're last minute with your tax return, you get to January and you haven't got to find the money for it because you know it's already in that pot, and start exploring the idea of having some accounting software to help you. So those are my 5 main takeaways that I think people should take away as actions from here. And then any other questions?
I think, has anybody got any other questions? Yeah,
Hello.
What about if you don't capture your receipt? Say you just forget, or let's say, yeah, what would happen then?
So HMRC are quite lenient. They will go through the list and ask you what you've spent your money on. And actually, that's exactly what they're asking the current client, and we can demonstrate that. So it depends on what it is. If it's a Costa receipt, generally it's really obvious. It's £3.50, right? That's one coffee. If it's something like Amazon, where it can be ambiguous, right? Who knows what you buy off Amazon? They might ask you to go and find that. But generally, if it's the odd one, it's fine. But they may well ask for the bigger items, so you'll need to provide something behind that.
Uh, but, Vashi,
Um, is there a list of allowances anywhere that you can claim? So when I was contracting before with my limited company,
Yep.
my accountant sent me a list of don't forget to claim this stuff, and it was stuff like well-being allowance, volunteering allowance, things like gifts and things like that. Is there an easy place to find all of that?
No, it's not as straightforward as when you're a sole trader, in terms of allowances that are out there. But there is a list on HMRC if you go in there to see what there is. But no, they're not quite as friendly. What you might find, particularly in the area that you guys are in, is that your costs might be less than £1,000 a year. And actually, that's increasing going forward. So they have what's called a trading allowance. So we also look at your income and we say, right, your expenses for the year were £600. We're going to offset that, and that's what you'd pay tax on. But actually, the trading allowance is a flat £1,000. So we're just going to claim that because that is better for you because it covers all costs. So you can't claim anything else. You couldn't then say I've brought a laptop as well, but you could say I'm going to claim the 1,000. Next year it's going up to 2,000, which is a great amount. And again, there's you'll have seen conversation online about things like vintage sellers and eBay sellers. This is then to help support those. There's flat costs involved with that. So that might be your answer if you don't have in terms of much in the way of expenditure, then to use the trading allowance instead.
hello.
Yeah, I mean, this has been super helpful. So you've mentioned a couple of times that we don't need those paper copies, but by law, we're required to keep our records for 7 years.
Correct.
Given that I have a limited trust of cybersecurity, what sort of what's my legal position if I do just get rid of all the paper, keep it electronically, and then something goes wrong? What are the backups that Zero or others have got, and what do I need to do? Keeping it in the cloud or something like that, because I do, that does concern me.
No, absolutely. And that's really important. So when you're working with somebody, you look at something in terms of we've got our cyber essentials in place. So we've looked at all of this. Zero is cloud-based. They do their own backups, but they don't guarantee them. So you can work with an external company that will actually, as I say, do that recommended daily, weekly backup that you want to. Or if you're using something like Dex or HubDoc, they sit separately from the two. So there's a copy stored in Dext as well as the transaction in Zero. So we would hope that based on the cloud and the enforcement that we have with them, they have very strict data policies on where their data sits as well. Because obviously things like GDPR as well, we have to work out where that data sits and which cloud and who has it and who's working on it. So there is their own backups in place. But absolutely, if you're still not comfortable with that, you can still maintain those paper records.
Thank you.
You may also just get into the process. I mean, even things like Amazon Photos, if you back up your personal photos to something like that, having a folder there where you've got copies of them, because as I say, often a lot of them now fade. They use this heat print, don't they, on the sort of, and then you get to it and you go, I don't know what that is because I can't read it. So having a copy of it somewhere, even if it is just a photo on your phone, again, it still then use the cloud, but they might well make you slightly more comfortable.
Thank you.
So I have one more question. Sorry, Emma.
That's all right.
So there's, I don't know if anyone else is in the same boat, but I am doing some work that I'm not getting paid for, and I have my various reasons for doing that.
Yep.
I'm assuming that you can't claim for anything that you're not receiving a payment for.
Well, it depends on what the intention is with that, if that makes sense. So we do some stuff for charities and whatever we don't get paid for, but we'll treat that as a donation. But if you're doing it to maintain a relationship with somebody, so the intention is at some point with that will generate work through relationships and social media that you've done that, then that would absolutely be fine.
Oh, cool. Great.
Right?
More money. Thanks.
But there was an intention behind, so it's all often HMRC will also look at the intention. What is the intention behind what you're doing? Well, actually, I want to make my business grow, so I need to do this to have this relationship with somebody. I know later on they'll introduce me to somebody, or I'll do this, and this will give this, or it will enhance my skills. It's practice in writing a book, practice in whatever this kind of media I've not worked in before. So that
Yeah.
should absolutely be fine.
Yeah, because a good example of that is like Time Out, for example. They don't pay you
Right.
at all, but there are good opportunities that you get, and some of them have resulted in paid work.
Yeah.
So okay.
So absolutely. So effectively, it's just, although it's not direct advertising because you're not then paying for an advert, it is advertising and marketing your business.
So you could claim like your travel expenses to a voluntary thing that you might be doing. Like,
If the intention, yeah, absolutely. So I volunteer within scouting, so that's not to enhance the business. That's something I do outside of work. But actually, if it was voluntary, I was going to a meeting with a board of trustees for a charity that we doing and we have a relationship with that then will lead to more, then absolutely. So it depends on that type of relationship, as I say.
excellent.
I just had a question actually.
Joe,
Yeah, I'm increasingly using a few tools that are new, like AI transcription services and AI research, like Perplexity. And I only use them for work. And so, would they be a business expense as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, research purposes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
For instance, I do a creative writing course. Would that be related? I'm mainly a health and medical journalist. I've never claimed for anything like that before.
I would suggest that I would think that a creative writing course will help you in terms of what you do. Obviously, you don't want to be too creative in what you're writing about for work purposes, obviously, but there will be different writing styles that I would argue would be the same. So I would say you'd be okay with that.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
are there any more questions? Well, I think we should probably wrap up. Thank you very much, Emma. That's been
You're very welcome.
really, really useful. I think, and I